One last time, do you consent to a search?
No.
I do not consent.
You don't get to tell me how to do my
I'm
job.
not resisting. I'm asserting my rights, and you're on camera.
I did not give you permission to touch my bag. The words came out steady, controlled, but loud enough for the people waiting at the bus stop to hear. Then why are you acting nervous? Officer Ryan Caldwell stood less than 2 feet away, one hand already gripping the strap of the black backpack hanging from the man's shoulder. It was 5:42 p.m. on a warm Thursday afternoon. Downtown traffic crawled past in short, angry bursts of horns and engines. Heat rose from the concrete sidewalk, the smell of hot asphalt mixed with street food from a nearby cart. Office workers waited for the crosswalk light to change eyes, drifting minds already halfway home. I am not nervous. I am asking a question. Marcus Hill adjusted his stance slightly, feet shoulder-width apart, hands visible, posture careful. He knew the rules. He had learned them early. Do not raise your voice. Do not move too fast. Do not give them an excuse. Caldwell's jaw tightened. You fit the description. What description? Marcus asked calmly. Suspicious individual. Caldwell replied, eyes already scanning the backpack, not Marcus. Suspicious for what exactly? Marcus pressed. Caldwell did not answer. He stepped closer, closing the gap, his presence heavy and intentional. The body camera on his chest blinked red. A city bus hissed to a stop behind them. Someone in the crowd lifted a phone, then another. I am asking you one last time. Do you consent to a search? Caldwell said. No, Marcus answered. The word hung in the air. Clear, legal, final. Caldwell exhaled sharply through his nose. His fingers tightened on the strap. You do not get to tell me how to do my job. Marcus felt the familiar tightening in his chest, the quiet calculation running behind his eyes. How fast could this turn? How many witnesses were there? Was anyone recording clearly? I am not resisting. I am asserting my rights, Marcus said. At that moment, Caldwell yanked the backpack forward. The zipper rasped open. The sound cut through the street noise like a blade. Paper spilled onto the sidewalk. A lunch container clattered and rolled. A folded work uniform slid out blue fabric against gray concrete. Gasps rippled through the small crowd. That is illegal, someone said. Marcus did not move. His face stayed still, but his eyes locked on the open bag on the violation made public on the moment he knew would not end here. Caldwell rummaged for several seconds longer than necessary, slower than professional. Then he stopped. There was nothing. Nothing but silence. Caldwell zipped the bag and shoved it back toward Marcus. You are free to go. Marcus looked at the people watching, at the phone still raised, at the officer already turning away. This was not over. He knew it. Marcus Hill had learned how to be careful long before that Thursday afternoon, long before Officer Caldwell ever said the word suspicious. He learned it growing up on the south side of Columbus, Ohio, in a neighborhood where police cruisers rolled slowly at night and questions were rarely neutral. His mother worked double shifts as a nursing assistant. His father drove city buses for 26 years without a single complaint on his record. Marcus was raised on rules that were never written down. Keep your hands visible. Speak clearly. Do not argue on the street. Survive first. Fight later. Marcus followed every rule society said would protect him. He graduated high school with honors, earned a partial scholarship, studied logistics and supply chain management. No criminal record, no suspensions, no arrests. Not even a traffic ticket beyond a parking violation he paid the same afternoon. At 32, Marcus worked for a regional medical supply company. He managed inventory routes between hospitals and clinics. His backpack held manifest gloves, a company-issued tablet, and his folded work uniform. He carried it every day. That bag was not suspicious. It was routine. It was his livelihood. Marcus had been stopped before. Not detained, not arrested. Just stopped. Asked where he was going, asked what was in his bag, asked why he was walking so fast or so slow. Each time he complied, each time he swallowed the frustration, each time he told himself it was better not to escalate. But something changed over the years. He read court decisions, watched videos, learned language, reasonable suspicion, probable cause, Fourth Amendment. He learned that compliance did not guarantee dignity. Silence did not guarantee safety. And rights only existed if someone was willing to assert them. Officer Ryan Caldwell came from a different world. Born and raised 2 hours north in a small Ohio town where everyone knew everyone. His father had been a corrections officer, his uncle a deputy sheriff. Law enforcement was not just a job in the family. It was identity. Caldwell joined the force at 24. Athletic, confident, clean record. His early evaluations described him as proactive and assertive, willing to take initiative, comfortable with authority. The words appeared again and again. What did not appear as clearly were the complaints. Not enough to end a career, enough to form a pattern. 3 years earlier, a college student filed a complaint after Caldwell stopped him outside a convenience store and searched his pockets without consent. The complaint was closed as unfounded. No video, no witnesses. A year later, a delivery driver alleged Caldwell searched his vehicle without explanation. Internal Affairs noted inconsistencies but sustained nothing. Caldwell received verbal counseling on communication. 6 months after that, a mother complained Caldwell questioned her teenage son for loitering outside their own apartment building. No charges, no arrest, no discipline. Each incident was treated in isolation. No one stepped back to look at the whole picture. Each time Caldwell learned the same lesson. Push the line. Nothing happens. By the time Caldwell encountered Marcus Hill, he had been on the force for 8 years. He trusted his instincts. He believed compliance was respect and resistance was guilt. He believed authority did not need to explain itself to function. That Thursday, Caldwell had been dispatched to the downtown corridor after a vague call. Male subject, backpack, lingering near bus stop. Caller did not report a crime, did not describe behavior, just concern. Caldwell arrived already convinced he would find something. He saw Marcus. Black, backpack, standing still. That was enough. In Caldwell's mind, the encounter was routine. In Marcus's body, it was familiar dread. 2 lives intersecting under unequal weight. Marcus did not raise his voice. He did not insult. He did not move away. He asked questions. That alone changed the dynamic. To Caldwell, questions sounded like challenge. Challenge sounded like disrespect. Disrespect demanded control. What Caldwell did not consider was how many times Marcus had played this scene in his head, how many times he imagined asserting himself, and what it might cost. How many times he decided silence was safer until that day. The bag was not just a bag. It was proof of work, of normalcy, of a life built carefully. When Caldwell grabbed it, it was not just a search. It was a public declaration that none of that mattered. Marcus understood something the moment the zipper opened. This was no longer about the street. This was about accountability, about whether the rules applied equally, about whether the system would listen when someone finally said no. Caldwell did not know that yet. He still thought the moment would pass, that the man would walk away embarrassed, that the report would never be written. Both of them were wrong. The street did not stop moving when the bag was searched. Traffic kept crawling. The bus doors opened and closed. A crosswalk signal beeped steadily, but the energy around Marcus shifted. People were no longer passing through. They were staying. A woman in business attire took 2 steps closer. Her phone already angled toward the scene. A man waiting for the bus stopped scrolling and started recording. Someone whispered that this did not look right. Someone else shook their head slowly, recognition settling in. Marcus bent down and calmly picked up the papers from the sidewalk. He stacked them carefully, 1 page at a time. His movements were deliberate, almost ceremonial. He refused to rush. He refused to look small. "You had no right to do that," he said quietly. Caldwell did not respond. He adjusted his belt and scanned the crowd for a moment, eyes darting from phone to phone. The body camera light was still blinking red, but now he was aware of other lenses. Uncontrolled lenses. "You are interfering with an investigation," Caldwell finally said. "What investigation?" Marcus asked. Caldwell hesitated, just a fraction of a second, long enough for the silence to stretch. "I received a call," he said. "That is not probable cause," Marcus replied. The words landed harder than any insult. Several people in the crowd reacted. Someone muttered that he sounded like he knew the law. Another voice said the cop looked nervous now. Caldwell stepped closer again, trying to reclaim physical dominance. "You do not get to lecture me on the law." "I am not lecturing, I am asking," Marcus said. The tension thickened. Caldwell's face reddened. His voice dropped lower, sharper. "You are being uncooperative." Marcus straightened fully now. His shoulders squared. His chin lifted just enough to show resolve without aggression. "I am standing here. I answered your questions. I did not consent to a search. That is not uncooperative." Phones stayed up. No one moved away. This was no longer a private interaction. It was a public test. Caldwell's instincts screamed at him to reassert control, to issue commands. to end this before it slipped further. The crowd felt like judgment. Each phone a potential report he could not edit. He looked around and saw it. The imbalance. One officer, one man, too many witnesses. "You can leave," Caldwell said again, louder this time. Marcus did not move immediately. He zipped his bag himself. Slowly, he placed it back on his shoulder. Then he looked Caldwell directly in the eyes. "You searched my bag without cause," he said. "That is a violation." Caldwell turned his head slightly, pretending not to hear. He took a step back. The universal signal that the encounter was over. Marcus turned toward the crowd instead. "Did anyone get that on video?" he asked. Several people nodded. A woman raised her phone higher. "All of it," she said. That moment changed everything. Caldwell felt it immediately. The control he thought he had was gone. The narrative was no longer his to shape. As Marcus stepped away, someone in the crowd spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. "You cannot just do that." Another voice followed. "That is illegal." Caldwell walked back toward his patrol car without responding. He did not look back. He did not engage. He did not apologize. The car door closed with a hollow thud. The engine started. Marcus stood still as the car pulled away. He let it disappear into traffic before exhaling. His hands were steady. His heart was not. He looked at the woman who had been recording. "Can you send that to me?" he asked. She nodded and exchanged information without hesitation. Others did the same. Names, numbers, willing witnesses. Marcus knew something important had happened. Not because he had won, not because the officer left, but because for once, he had not been alone. The crowd slowly dispersed. The bus arrived. Life resumed. But the footage had already begun its journey. From phones to messages. From messages to lawyers. From lawyers to something much bigger. Caldwell drove away believing the encounter was over. Marcus knew it was just beginning. The injustice did not end when the patrol car drove away. It crystallized afterward in the quiet seconds when Marcus stood alone on the sidewalk, replaying the sound of the zipper in his head. That sound stayed with him. Not loud, not violent, just deliberate. A decision made without permission. Marcus boarded the bus and sat near the back backpack resting on his lap. He did not open it. He did not look inside. He stared straight ahead as the bus lurched forward, streetlights flickering past the window. Around him, people whispered into phones, replaying what they had just recorded, uploading clips before the moment could fade. By the time Marcus reached his stop, the first video had already been sent to 3 people. 2 hours later, Marcus sat at his kitchen table. The backpack lay open in front of him now. Everything inside was exactly where it should be. Still, the order felt violated. His fingers moved slowly, touching each item, grounding himself in the reality that he had not imagined any of it. His phone buzzed again and again. Unknown numbers, missed calls, text messages from witnesses he had never met before that day. One message stood out. It stood, "Civil rights attorney here. I saw the footage. Call me." Marcus leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. He exhaled slowly. This was the moment when anger could either burn out or sharpen into something else. Across the city, Officer Caldwell finished his shift in silence. He wrote his report quickly. Routine language, neutral phrasing. Subject was questioned. No contraband found. Subject released. No mention of consent. No mention of the zipper. No mention of the phones. He submitted the report and logged off. For a brief moment, he allowed himself to believe that was the end of it. It was not. The next morning, Marcus sat in a small office across from a lawyer who watched the footage without blinking. No commentary. No interruption. When the video ended, the lawyer turned the screen back to the beginning and played it again. "Notice the moment your bag is touched," he said. "Notice your hands." He paused the frame. "They never leave view. Notice the lack of any articulated suspicion." He paused again. "That is where this case lives." Marcus felt something settle in his chest. Not relief. Not yet. Clarity. By noon, the video was circulating beyond private messages. A local account posted it with a short caption. No narration, no edits, just raw footage. The comments came fast. People argued, people defended, people recognized themselves in Marcus. By evening, the department had seen it too. An internal email went out requesting body camera footage. Another followed asking for the incident report. Caldwell was told to remain available. That night, Caldwell lay awake longer than usual. He replayed the encounter in fragments. The questions. The crowd. The way the man did not back down. The way the phone stayed up. He told himself he had done nothing wrong. He told himself this was being blown out of proportion. But the certainty he usually relied on felt thinner now. Marcus did not sleep either. His mind cycled through the same images, but with a different weight. This time he was not alone with them. The injustice had moved from the sidewalk into record, from record into review, from review into consequence. The zipper sound still echoed, but now it had witnesses. The revelation did not arrive with sirens or raised voices. It arrived quietly through verification. 2 days after the video surfaced, Marcus sat in a conference room with pale walls and a long glass table. His attorney placed a laptop in front of him and connected it to a larger screen. The footage appeared again, this time side by side with another angle. Body camera footage. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the air conditioning. The body cam showed everything the street video had not. Caldwell's approach. The lack of any stated suspicion. The moment his hand reached for the bag strap before any consent was given. The absence of any safety justification. No frisk, no warning, just possession. The attorney paused the video. "Right here," he said quietly. "This is the violation." Marcus leaned forward. He did not speak. The attorney switched to a document. A department policy manual. Highlighted sections appeared on screen. No officer may search personal property without consent, probable cause, or exigent circumstances. The words were unambiguous. Then came the dispatch log. The call that initiated everything. Male subject with backpack lingering near bus stop. No crime reported, no threatening behavior described. The revelation was not dramatic. It was devastating in its simplicity. There had never been legal ground. That afternoon, the city's legal department requested a copy of all footage. They watched it without commentary. Then they watched it again. They compared the video to Caldwell's written report. The discrepancies were impossible to ignore. His report claimed consent was implied. The video showed refusal. His report suggested nervous behavior. The video showed controlled stillness. His report framed the search as brief and incidental. The video showed deliberate rummaging. By the end of the review, the question was no longer whether a violation occurred. It was how many. Caldwell was called into a meeting the next morning. No uniform, no patrol car, just a chair across from internal affairs and a screen playing his own actions back to him. He watched without interruption, without commentary. When the video ended, no one spoke for several seconds. "Is this your body camera?" an investigator asked. "Yes," Caldwell answered. "Did the individual consent to a search of his bag?" Caldwell hesitated. The pause was recorded. "No," he said finally. The room shifted, not emotionally, procedurally. That same day, Marcus received confirmation that his attorney had filed a formal civil rights complaint. Not a demand, not a threat. A filing. The language was precise. Fourth Amendment violation, unlawful search, racial profiling, failure to articulate reasonable suspicion, false reporting. Within 48 hours, the video reached national platforms. Legal analysts broke it down frame by frame. Former officers commented on what should have happened. Constitutional scholars pointed to precedent. The narrative was no longer contested. Caldwell's name appeared in headlines. Not his version, just his actions. Marcus did not speak publicly. He did not need to. The footage spoke with brutal clarity. The revelation was complete. There was no mystery, no gray area, no misunderstanding. Just a zipper opened without cause, and a system forced to acknowledge it. The lawsuit was filed on a Monday morning, quiet and deliberate. No press conference, no statement on the courthouse steps, just 42 pages of facts, timestamps, screenshots, and constitutional language that left little room for interpretation. Marcus Hill versus the city. The filing laid everything out. The stop, the refusal, the search, the crowd, the video, the internal report that contradicted recorded reality. It did not argue emotion. It argued law. By noon, the city attorney's office had seen it. By evening, they were already watching the footage again, this time with liability in mind. The public reaction arrived faster than the legal one. The video crossed state lines within hours. Then time zones. Then platforms. Clips circulated with no edits, no narration, no music. Just a man standing still while an officer crossed a line. Legal commentators slowed the footage down. Paused at the zipper. Paused at the refusal. Paused at the absence of any articulated reason. Each pause carried weight. Civil rights organizations amplified it. Not with outrage, but with explanation. What consent looks like. What probable cause requires. What the Fourth Amendment protects. Within 48 hours, the video passed 5 million views. The comment sections filled with patterns. People sharing similar encounters, different cities, same posture, same bag, same silence. The police department issued a short statement acknowledging awareness of the incident and confirming an internal review was underway. No defense, no denial. Officer Caldwell was placed on administrative leave pending investigation. His badge and weapon were surrendered quietly. No escort, no confrontation, just procedure. Internal affairs moved quickly. They did not need witness interviews to establish the core violation. The footage was sufficient. What followed was context. They pulled Caldwell's prior complaints. Read them together instead of separately. Noted similarities in language, in assumptions, in escalation. A pattern that had once been invisible became obvious when viewed whole. The city faced a choice: contest the case and risk discovery, or negotiate. Discovery would mean depositions, emails, training records, complaint histories, body camera audits, everything that lived behind closed doors. The city attorney recommended settlement discussions. Marcus sat through the meetings without speaking much. He did not need to. His attorney handled the numbers. The city handled its exposure. The first offer was rejected. The second acknowledged fault without naming it. The third came with a number that changed the tone of the room. $1.8 million. Not as punishment, as calculation. The agreement included policy changes, mandatory retraining on consent searches, clearer documentation requirements, supervisory review for stops based on vague calls, no admission of wrongdoing, no apology clause. Marcus signed. The city council approved the settlement in closed session. The vote was unanimous. When the settlement became public, the reaction was immediate. Headlines focused on the number. Commentators debated whether it was too high or not high enough. Few argued the facts. Officer Caldwell resigned 2 weeks later. No ceremony, no statement. His personnel file would reflect separation during investigation. His law enforcement career was effectively over. Marcus did not celebrate. He donated a portion of the settlement to a legal defense fund that supported similar cases. He returned to work quietly. Same routes, same bag. The difference was not in his routine, it was in the record. A search that once would have vanished into memory now existed in case law training slides and departmental warnings. The crusade for justice did not look like victory. It looked like accountability. A zipper opened without cause. A city paid for it, and a precedent was set. What happened to Marcus Hill was not a misunderstanding. It was not a gray area. It was a textbook violation of constitutional law that plays out thousands of times a year, usually without witnesses, without cameras, and without consequences. Under the Fourth Amendment, police officers are prohibited from searching a person or their belongings without consent, probable cause, or exigent circumstances. None of those existed on that sidewalk. A vague description, a backpack, a feeling. None of that meets the legal standard. Refusing consent is not suspicious. Asking questions is not obstruction. Standing still is not probable cause. These principles are not opinions. They are settled law. The reason cases like this continue to happen is not because the law is unclear. It is because enforcement is uneven and accountability is rare. Racial profiling operates quietly. It disguises itself as intuition, as officer safety, as routine procedure. But when stripped down to facts and footage, it becomes what it is: a decision based on appearance rather than behavior. Marcus did what many people are afraid to do. He asserted his rights calmly. He did not run. He did not raise his voice. He did not touch the officer. He created a clean record. That matters. For viewers watching this, there are practical lessons that can save you later. If you are stopped, keep your hands visible. Ask if you are being detained or if you are free to go. You have the right to ask why. You have the right to refuse consent to a search. Say it clearly. Say it once. Do not argue beyond that. If possible, record. If you cannot look for witnesses, ask them to record. Ask them to stay. Documentation changes everything. Do not resist physically. Do not try to educate in the moment. Survive the encounter first. Accountability comes later. If a search happens without cause, write everything down as soon as you are safe. Time, location, badge numbers, witnesses. Small details become evidence. And understand this. Most people who experience what Marcus did never see a settlement, never see a resignation, never see reform. Not because they are wrong, but because their cases are invisible. This one was not. The purpose of telling this story is not to glorify lawsuits or demonize uniforms. It is to make the invisible visible, to show exactly how rights are violated and exactly how they are enforced when someone refuses to disappear. A zipper opened without cause became a legal record. A quiet refusal became a lawsuit. A routine stop became a $1.8 million lesson. That is not karma. That is accountability. And accountability only works when people know their rights, use them carefully, and refuse to accept silence as the price of peace.